The Kreltak struck at midnight when most of the station was sleeping. They moved through Outpost Meridian like shadows, their quantum stealth technology making them nearly invisible to normal security sensors. They had studied the station's layout for days and knew exactly where Deho would be. The first sign of trouble was when the guards outside Deho's quarters stopped responding to check-ins. Commander Taman saw it immediately on his command screen. He hit the alarm button and grabbed his weapon. All security teams to Section 7. We have a breach. Jiwoo, get to Deho now! Jiwoo was already running. She had been stationed 2 corridors away, and she covered the distance in seconds. She was fast, even for a Korvan. When she rounded the corner, she saw the 2 guards on the floor, unconscious but alive. The door to Deho's quarters was open. She went through the door, ready for anything. What she saw made her stop and stare. 5 Kreltak assassins were inside the room. Each one was over 7 feet tall with cybernetic enhancements visible under their skin. They carried weapons designed to kill silently and efficiently. They were the best killers money could buy, and Deho was standing in the middle of them, completely calm. You should leave, Deho said to them quietly. You don't want to do this, the lead Kreltak laughed. It was an ugly sound. You're coming with us, human. Dead or alive makes no difference to our payment. Then you've made your choice, Deho replied. The first assassin moved with incredible speed. His blade came up in a strike that should have cut Deho in half. But Deho wasn't there anymore. He had shifted his weight and turned his body just enough that the blade passed through empty air. In the same motion, he grabbed the assassin's wrist and pulled. The Kreltak's own momentum worked against him. He stumbled forward off balance. Deho used his hip as a pivot point and threw the massive assassin over his shoulder. The Kreltak hit the floor so hard the metal dented. The second assassin fired a neural disruptor, a weapon that scrambled brain signals and left victims unconscious. The beam hit Deho directly in the chest. He flinched but didn't fall. The assassin fired again, confused. The weapon was working. The beam was hitting its target, but Deho's brain activity was too chaotic for the disruptor to lock onto any specific pattern. Interesting weapon, Deho said. Then he picked up a chair and threw it. The chair hit the second assassin in the face and he went down hard. The neural disruptor clattered across the floor. Jiwoo finally moved into the room, her weapon raised, but she didn't fire. She couldn't. She was watching something she had never seen before. Deho wasn't fighting like a trained warrior. He wasn't using any recognizable combat style. He was just moving efficiently, wasting no energy and turning everything around him into a weapon. The third and fourth assassins attacked together. One went high, one went low. It was a classic pincer move that was almost impossible to defend against. Deho dropped to one knee and rolled backward. Both assassins missed and crashed into each other. Before they could recover, Deho grabbed the neural disruptor from the floor and hit them both with it at maximum power. They dropped instantly. The fifth assassin, the leader, pulled out a blade that glowed with plasma energy. This weapon could cut through almost any armor. He came at Deho with professional skill, making precise strikes that showed years of training. Deho blocked the first strike with a metal desk lamp. The plasma blade cut through the lamp, but not before Deho had moved again. He was always moving, always one step ahead. He grabbed a data pad and threw it at the assassin's face. While the assassin was distracted, Deho closed the distance and grabbed the wrist holding the plasma blade. What happened next shocked Jiwoo. Deho twisted the assassin's wrist in a way that looked simple, but must have been incredibly painful. The Kreltak, trained to resist torture, dropped his weapon and screamed. Deho swept his legs and put him on the ground, one arm twisted behind his back in a submission hold. Stay down, Deho said calmly, or I'll break it. The whole fight had lasted less than 2 minutes. Security teams flooded into the room moments later, followed by Commander Tae-min. They looked at the 5 unconscious or subdued Kreltak assassins and then at Deho, who was breathing hard but otherwise uninjured. Are you hurt? Tae-min asked. No, but your guards outside need medical attention. These assassins didn't kill them, just knocked them out. Jiwoo holstered her weapon slowly. She had seen many fighters in her life. She had trained with champions and fought beside legends, but she had never seen anyone move like Deho. He didn't fight harder or faster than his enemies. He fought smarter. Every movement had a purpose. Every action was calculated. How did you do that? She asked him. Deho looked at her and shrugged. They were well trained. But training has patterns. Patterns can be predicted. You learned their patterns in 2 minutes? Less than that. After the first attack, I knew what they would do. The captured Kreltak were taken to the security cells. Officer Sang-hyun took charge of the interrogation. He was good at getting information from people who didn't want to talk. The lead assassin was tough, but even tough people broke eventually. Why did the syndicate want him? Sang-hyun asked. The assassin stared at the wall for a long time before answering. They told us he was valuable. They told us he was the last of his kind. They told us his species conquered death itself before choosing extinction. What does that mean? I don't know. Those were the exact words in our mission brief. The syndicate has records, old records from before the coalition existed. They know something about humans that the rest of the galaxy doesn't. Sang-hyun reported this to Commander Taemin immediately. Taemin then went to Dr. Hae-won, who had been working day and night trying to find any information about humans in the old databases. I found something, she said, her voice tired but excited. It's not much, just fragments. But there are references in the precursor archives. The precursors? Taemin was shocked. The precursors were an ancient civilization that existed millions of years ago. They had built structures and left knowledge that even modern science couldn't fully understand. What do they say about humans? Dr. Hae-won pulled up the translated text on her screen. It's incomplete, but I'll read what I have. In the time of darkness, when survival meant adaptation to all things, there rose a species unlike any before. They called themselves humanity. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They did not have claws or armor or poison. But they had something else. They never stopped coming back. The alarm screamed through Outpost Meridian at 3 a.m. Commander Taemin rolled out of his bed and grabbed his uniform before the second alert even finished. Something was wrong. Alarms this loud only meant one thing. Something had entered their space without permission. He ran to the command center where his officers were already working. The main screen showed a small ship drifting near the void belt, a dangerous area of space where most ships avoided going. The vessel was old, very old, and it was sending out a distress signal that used a frequency nobody had heard in thousands of years. How long has it been there? Taemin asked. We just detected it, sir. The signal is weak. Whatever it is, it's been floating out there for a very long time, his second officer replied. Taemin made his decision quickly. Prepare a recovery team. I'm going with them. 2 hours later, Taemin and his team floated through the airlock of the mysterious vessel. Their suit lights cut through the darkness inside. The ship was unlike anything in their database. The walls were made of materials that shouldn't exist together. Everything was covered in dust and ice. They moved through empty corridors until they found what they were looking for. In the center of the ship was a single cryopod, still active after who knows how many years. Inside the pod was a male figure frozen in time. He looked almost normal, almost like a dozen other species in the galaxy, but something about him felt different. Get this pod back to the station, Taemin ordered, and seal this entire ship. Nobody comes back here without my permission. Back at Outpost Meridian, Dr. Hae-won was waiting in the medical bay. She was the best scientist on the station, and she loved mysteries. When they brought the pod in, her eyes went wide with excitement. Start the scan, she told her assistants. I want to know everything about him before we wake him up. The results came back an hour later, and Dr. Hae-won read them 3 times, because she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The DNA didn't match anything in the galactic database, not even close. This being had genetic markers that made no sense. His cells could adapt and change in ways that should be impossible without heavy modification. But all the tests said this was natural, not artificial. What species is he? Taemin asked. I don't know, Dr. Hae-won admitted. He's not in any of our records. His DNA contains sequences from dozens of different evolutionary paths. It's like his ancestors survived everything the universe could throw at them and kept the best parts. Is he dangerous? I won't know until we wake him up. But Commander, his body is designed to survive. Whatever his species faced, they had to be ready for anything. Taemin thought about it for a long moment. Wake him up, but do it slowly, and have security ready. The process took 2 days. First, they had to warm his body carefully. Then they had to make sure his organs would start working again. Dr. Hae-won watched every reading, making small adjustments. Finally, on the 3rd morning, the man's eyes opened. He looked around the medical bay with confusion but no fear. When he saw all the different species standing around him, he didn't panic. He just watched them, studying them the same way they were studying him. Dr. Haiwan stepped forward and spoke in Galactic Common, the language everyone in the coalition used. "Can you understand me?" The man opened his mouth and made sounds that meant nothing. His language was completely unknown. He tried several more times using different sounds, but none of them matched anything in their translation systems. Over the next few days, something amazing happened. The man learned Galactic Common just by listening to people around him. In 3 days, he could understand simple questions. In 5 days, he could speak well enough to have conversations. In a week, he spoke better than some people who had studied the language for years. "My name is Daeho," he told them in his first full sentence. "Where am I? What year is this?" When they told him, he went very quiet. Dr. Haiwan calculated the numbers based on his ship's age. Daeho had been asleep for more than 10,000 years. Everyone he knew was gone. His entire civilization was gone. "What were your people called?" Taemin asked gently. "Humans," Daeho answered. "We called ourselves humans." Dr. Haiwan searched every database they had. There was nothing about humans anywhere. No records, no history, nothing at all. It was as if his entire species had been erased from existence. But word about Daeho spread quickly through the station. 10,000 people lived on Outpost Meridian, and everyone heard about the man with DNA that matched no known species. Some were curious, others were worried, and some were afraid. The Vrelith were afraid. The Vrelith were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall with armor-like skin and strength that could bend metal. They had never lost a war in 2,000 years. They ruled through combat and honor, and everyone respected them because everyone feared them. Their representative on the station was named Throckmar, and he demanded to see Commander Taemin immediately. "This unknown species must be contained," Throckmar said. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stone. "His genetics are unstable. He could be dangerous." "He hasn't done anything wrong," Taemin replied calmly. "Yet have you tested his physical abilities? Do you know what he's capable of?" "We're running standard medical tests. So far he's been cooperative." It was during one of these tests that everything changed. Dr. Haiwan was checking Daeho's respiratory system when an accident happened. A container of Vrelith combat gas broke open in the next room. The gas was used by Vrelith warriors to train for extreme environments. It was lethal to almost every other species in the galaxy. The emergency systems failed to seal the room in time. The gas flooded into the medical bay. Dr. Haiwan collapsed immediately, her breathing stopped. The medical assistants fell next. Daeho was standing in the middle of the gas cloud. He didn't fall. He coughed a few times, his eyes watered, but he stayed on his feet. Then he did something incredible. He dragged Dr. Haiwan and both assistants out of the contaminated area, moving through the gas like it was barely affecting him. By the time the security team arrived with breathing equipment, Daeho had saved all 3 of them. The station doctor examined him afterward. "How are you alive?" "That gas should have killed you in seconds." Daeho shrugged. "It hurt, but I've felt worse." The news spread through Outpost Meridian like fire. A being who could survive Vrelith combat gas without any protection. Within hours, the entire station knew. Within a day, the entire sector knew. Within a week, half the galaxy had heard the story. Throckmar's report to the Vrelith Council was simple. He is stronger than he appears. Much stronger. But not everyone saw Daeho as a curiosity or a concern. Some people saw him as an opportunity. In the dark corners of the galaxy, where criminals and syndicates made their plans, the news about Daeho was very interesting. A being with unknown genetics and incredible survival abilities would be worth a fortune. Dead or alive, but preferably alive so they could study him. The Krell Syndicate was one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the galaxy. They specialized in kidnapping, weapons dealing, and selling illegal genetic modifications. When they heard about Daeho, their leader made a simple decision. "Send the Krelltak," he ordered. "Bring him to me." The Krelltak were not ordinary criminals. They were elite assassins, bred and trained specifically for impossible missions. Each one was enhanced with cybernetics and combat drugs. Each one could fight through 100 normal soldiers. The Syndicate was sending 5 of them. On Outpost Meridian, Commander Taemin received a warning from Coalition Intelligence. Officer Sang-hyun delivered the news personally. "Sir, we've intercepted communication suggesting the Krell Syndicate is planning an operation against the station. We believe they're after the human." Taemin immediately ordered increased security around Daeho. He assigned his best guards, including Ji-Woo, a legendary warrior from the Corvin species. Ji-Woo had fought in 30 major battles and won every single combat she'd ever been in. If anyone could protect Daeho, it was her. "Stay close to him," Taemin told Ji-Woo. "The Krelltak are coming." Ji-Woo nodded. She had heard about Daeho but hadn't met him yet. She was curious about this human everyone was talking about. Could he really be as dangerous as the rumors said? Or was he just lucky? She would find out very soon. The Krelltak were already on the station, hidden among the crowds, waiting for their moment to strike. "That's it? That's all we have?" "There's more, but it's too damaged to read. The files are millions of years old. But there's one more thing." She pulled up another screen. The precursors left a classification system for species they encountered. Most species got basic threat ratings. Humans got a special designation. The translation is rough, but it means something like species of infinite concern. Taemin sat down heavily. What did we wake up? The news about Daeho defeating 5 Krelltak assassins spread through the galaxy even faster than the story about the combat gas. This time it wasn't just rumors. Security footage existed. People could watch the fight themselves. And what they saw made them afraid. The Vrelith Council met in emergency session. Throckmar presented his findings. This human defeated 5 enhanced assassins without any weapons or armor. He survived Vrelith combat gas. His DNA doesn't match anything we know. And now we have proof that his species was considered dangerous by the precursors themselves. The council debated for hours. Finally, they made their decision. The council's High Commander, Grakthar, delivered the verdict himself through official channels. The human known as Daeho is hereby classified as a Class 9 threat to galactic security. This classification is reserved for species-ending dangers. The Vrelith Council demands that he be placed in maximum security containment immediately. Commander Taemin received the order and felt his heart sink. Class 9 threats weren't prisoners. They were problems to be eliminated. The Vrelith were essentially demanding that Daeho be imprisoned for the rest of his life or worse. He went to Daeho's quarters, which were now under heavy guard. Daeho was sitting on his bed reading a datapad. He looked up when Taemin entered. "They're afraid of me," Daeho said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, the Vrelith Council wants you contained. I'm going to resist the order as long as I can, but they have a lot of power." "I understand. They see something unknown and assume it's dangerous." "That's logical." Daeho set down the datapad. "But I'm not dangerous to people who don't threaten me. I just want to understand what happened to my people." Before Taemin could respond, alarms started blaring again. This time it was different. This was the invasion alarm. On the main screen in the command center, a massive fleet had just appeared on the edge of the system. Vrelith warships. Dozens of them. Taemin's communication panel lit up with an incoming message. It was Fleet Commander Grakthar himself. "Commander Taemin of Outpost Meridian. The Vrelith Council has determined that the Class 9 threat on your station is too dangerous to remain free. You have 1 hour to surrender the human to us, or we will board your station and take him by force. Any resistance will be considered an act of war. You have 10,000 souls on that station. Don't sacrifice them for one being." The transmission ended. Taemin looked at his crew. They looked back at him with fear in their eyes. The Vrelith had never backed down from anything. If they said they would take the station by force, they meant it. He had 1 hour to decide between 1 life and 10,000. Commander Taemin stood in his command center and watched the Vrelith fleet on the screen. 47 warships, each one capable of destroying the station by itself. He had less than an hour to make an impossible choice. "Sir, the Coalition Council is calling," his communications officer said. Taemin took the call. The council appeared on his screen. 12 representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy. They looked worried. "Commander, you need to surrender the human," Council Member Vex said. "The Vrelith are serious. We cannot go to war over one individual." "He hasn't done anything wrong," Taemin replied. "He defended himself against assassins. That's all. It doesn't matter. The Vrelith fear him, and when the Vrelith are afraid, they don't negotiate. Give them what they want, and if I refuse, then 10,000 people die, and we still won't go to war with the Vrelith over it. You'll be sacrificing your entire station for nothing." The call ended. Taemin felt sick. The council was right from a practical standpoint. 1 life versus 10,000 wasn't a real choice, but everything in him rebelled against surrendering an innocent person to what was essentially execution. "Commander," a voice said behind him. It was Daeho. He had walked into the command center without anyone stopping him. The guards hadn't even tried. "I'll go with them." "No," Taemin said immediately. "I won't hand you over like that. You have 10,000 people here, families, children. I won't let them die because of me." Daeho stepped forward. "But I have one condition." "What condition?" "The Vrelith respect honor in combat, correct?" "Yes, but..." "Then I challenge them to an honor duel. Traditional Vrelith rules. If I win, they leave. If I lose, they can do whatever they want with me." Taemin stared at him. "You can't be serious. You'd be fighting a Vrelith champion. They're the greatest warriors in the galaxy. I know, but it's better than surrendering without a fight, and it gives everyone on this station a chance to live." Before Taemin could argue further, Daeho walked to the communication station. "Open a channel to the Vrelith fleet." The communications officer looked at Taemin, who nodded slowly. Fleet Commander Grakthar appeared on the screen. He was massive even for a Vrelith, with scars covering his armor-like skin. Has the human decided to surrender? "I am Daeho of humanity," Daeho said clearly. "I challenge the Vrelith to single combat under your traditional honor rules. If I win, your fleet leaves. If I lose, I am yours to do with as you wish." The command center went completely silent. Nobody challenged the Vrelith to honor duels. Nobody except other Vrelith, and even they rarely did it because the fights were brutal. Grakthar studied Daeho through the screen. "You understand what you're asking? Our honor duels are to submission or death. We will choose our greatest champion. You will have no armor, no weapons except what is provided. The fight will be broadcast across the galaxy." "I understand. Then we accept. We will meet at the neutral asteroid designated Echo 7 in 6 hours. Prepare yourself, human. The channel closed." Taemin turned to Daeho. "Why did you do that?" "Because it's the only way everyone survives. The Vrelith won't back down from a direct threat. But they can't refuse an honor challenge. It's against their culture. You'll die. Their champion will be someone who has fought for decades." Daeho smiled slightly. "Maybe, but I'm very good at surviving." The next 6 hours were chaos. The Coalition Council was furious that Daeho had made the challenge without authorization. The Vrelith were preparing their champion, and news organizations from across the galaxy were scrambling to get to Echo 7 to broadcast the fight. Dr. Hei-Wan came to see Daeho in the medical bay, where he was being examined before the fight. "I wish there was another way," she said quietly. "There isn't, but thank you for trying to help me. Thank you for waking me up." "You might not thank me after this fight," Daeho shrugged. "I've been asleep for 10,000 years. At least I got to see the galaxy before the end." Jiwoo also came to speak with him. She had been assigned as his escort to the asteroid. "I watched you fight the assassins. You're skilled, but the Vrelith champion will be different. They'll be stronger, faster, and they've been training since they were children." "I know, but I've learned something about fighting. It's not always about being the strongest or the fastest. Sometimes it's about being the smartest. And if smart isn't enough, then I lose. But at least everyone else lives." The transport ship took them to Echo 7, a barren asteroid that had been used for Vrelith honor duels for centuries. The Vrelith had already set up the arena, a flat space of rock surrounded by energy barriers. Thousands of ships were gathering in orbit to watch. The Vrelith champion walked into the arena from the other side. His name was Krazoth, and he was a legend among legends. He had fought in 47 honor duels and won every single one. He had killed representatives of 30 different species in personal combat. His armor-like skin was covered in ritual scars, each one representing a victory. He was twice as tall as Daeho and probably 4 times as heavy. His arms looked like they could bend steel, and his claws could tear through armor. When he roared his challenge, the sound echoed across the asteroid. Daeho walked to the center of the arena. He looked small and fragile compared to Krazoth. He was given a simple blade, the same length as Krazoth's. No other weapons, no armor, just the blade in his body. Fleet Commander Grakthar's voice boomed across the arena and through the broadcasts. "This is an honor duel under traditional Vrelith law. The fight ends when one combatant submits or dies. There will be no interference. Begin." Krazoth charged immediately. He moved with shocking speed for something so large. His blade came down in an overhead strike that would have split Daeho in half. Daeho rolled to the side. The blade hit stone and sent chips flying. Before Krazoth could recover, Daeho was moving, circling, staying out of range. He wasn't attacking. He was watching. Krazoth attacked again, this time with a horizontal slash. Daiho ducked under it. Another strike, another dodge. Krazoth was getting frustrated. He increased his speed, launching a combination of strikes that should have been impossible to avoid. But Daiho avoided them, barely. He was reading the patterns, learning the rhythm. Every attack gave him more information. "Fight me, human," Krazoth roared. "Stop running." On the transport ship, Jiwoo watched the fight on the screen. Commander Taemin was beside her. "He can't keep dodging forever," Taemin said. "He's not trying to dodge forever," Jiwoo replied. "He's learning. Watch his eyes. He's studying every movement." Back in the arena, Daiho suddenly stopped retreating. Krazoth charged again, but this time Daiho stepped forward instead of back. He moved inside Krazoth's reach, too close for the big blade to be effective. His own blade flashed out and struck at the joints in Krazoth's armor-like skin, the weak points where the natural plates met. It was a small cut, barely bleeding, but it was the first hit of the fight. Krazoth stumbled back, shocked. Nobody had ever gotten inside his guard like that. He attacked more carefully now, more defensively. But Daiho had seen the pattern. Every time Krazoth swung high, his left side was exposed for a fraction of a second. Every time he thrust forward, his right knee bent slightly too much. Daiho began exploiting these weaknesses. Small cuts appeared on Krazoth's arms, his legs, his sides. None of them were serious, but they were accumulating. The Vrelith champion was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. "How is he doing this?" Krakthar muttered on his command ship. Thrakmar, standing beside him, answered quietly. "He's fighting like the precursors described. He's adapting to everything." The fight continued. Krazoth was getting tired. His swings were slower. His defenses had gaps. Daiho was also tired, but he kept moving, kept pressing. Then he did something that made everyone watching gasp. He spoke in perfect Vrelith, using an ancient dialect that most modern Vrelith didn't even know. "Your ancestors knew mine. They fought together against the darkness. They were brothers in battle." Krazoth froze. "How do you know our ancient tongue?" "I learned it 6 hours ago from your cultural database. It took me 3 hours to understand the patterns." Daiho lowered his blade slightly. "I don't want to kill you, Krazoth. You're a warrior of honor. You deserve respect, not death. Then you will lose!" Krazoth launched himself forward in a final desperate attack, using all his remaining strength. It was a perfect strike, one that had won him 20 previous duels, but Daiho had been waiting for it. He sidestepped, grabbed Krazoth's extended arm, and used the Vrelith's own momentum to throw him off balance. As Krazoth fell, Daiho struck the blade from his hand and put his own blade to Krazoth's throat. The arena went silent. "Yield," Daiho said softly. "So you can tell them what happened here. Tell them that strength alone is not enough. Tell them that a warrior must also be wise." Krazoth stared up at him. No one had ever defeated him. No one had ever asked him to yield instead of killing him. Slowly, he reached up and tapped his chest twice, the Vrelith signal of submission. "I yield to Daiho of humanity," Krazoth said clearly. The arena erupted in noise. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in shock as the undefeated Vrelith champion submitted to an unknown species. Fleet Commander Grakthar stood on his bridge, his expression unreadable. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders. By Vrelith law, the duel was over. Daiho had won. They had to leave. "Power down weapons," Grakthar ordered. "Prepare to withdraw." "Sir," Thrakmar said quietly. "What do we tell the council?" Grakthar watched Daiho help Krazoth to his feet on the arena floor. "We tell them the truth. We didn't fear his strength. We feared what he represents, a species that doesn't need claws or armor because they make weapons of everything, including their enemy's pride. The precursors were right to fear them." The Vrelith fleet turned and jumped out of the system. The honor duel was over and Daiho had won. After the duel, Daiho became the most famous being in the galaxy. Everyone knew his name. Everyone had seen him defeat the undefeated Vrelith champion. But fame didn't bring answers, and Daiho had questions that kept him awake at night. What happened to humanity? Why was he sent away? Where did his people go? Dr. Haywan worked day and night trying to find answers. She searched through every database, every archive, every fragment of old data she could access. Most of it was useless, corrupted by time or deliberately erased. But after 3 weeks of searching, she found something. She ran to find Daiho in the station's observation deck, where he often sat looking at the stars. I found coordinates, she said breathlessly. The precursor archives had them hidden in a damaged file. It's the location of your homeworld. Daeho stood up quickly. Where? Dr. Haywon's excitement faded. That's the problem. The coordinates place it in the forbidden sector. I've heard people mention that place. Why is it forbidden? Because entire fleets have gone in and never come back. Space itself is unstable there. The Coalition declared it off limits 200 years ago. Nobody goes there anymore, Mo, but my home is there. Maybe. Or maybe the coordinates are wrong. The file was millions of years old. Daeho looked back at the stars. I have to go. I need to know what happened to my people. I need to know why I was left behind. Dr. Haywon knew that look. She had seen it before. He had made up his mind. The Coalition will never approve an expedition to the Forbidden Sector. It's too dangerous. Then I'll go without approval. You can't fly a ship by yourself through normal space, let alone the Forbidden Sector. I know. Daeho turned to her. That's why I'm asking if you'll come with me. Dr. Haywon should have said no. It was crazy. It was against orders. It could end her career or worse. But she looked at Daeho and thought about everything he had lost. His entire species, everyone he loved. 10,000 years of history. How could she say no? I'll come, she said. But we'll need help. A lot of help. Over the next week, they gathered a crew. Commander Taemin was the first to volunteer. The Coalition is afraid of what might happen if you find something in the Forbidden Sector. I'm more afraid of what happens if we don't help you. Besides, I've spent my whole career following orders. Maybe it's time to break some rules. Jiwoo joined next. After watching Daeho fight Krazoth, she had started training with him. He taught her things about combat she had never considered. You gave me new purpose, she told him. The least I can do is help you find yours. Officer Sang-hyun contributed his intelligence skills. Someone needs to make sure we don't fly into obvious traps. Bora, a young engineer who had been studying human technology from Daeho's old ship, practically begged to come. Your people's engineering is incredible. Imagine what we might find on their homeworld. The pilot was Kyung-soo, considered the best navigator in the Coalition fleet. I've always wanted to see what's in the Forbidden Sector. Besides, someone needs to keep you all alive. Together, they stole the corvette Dawn's Promise, a fast ship with advanced sensors and weapons. It wasn't stealing exactly, since Commander Taemin had authorization to use it. He just didn't have authorization to take it into the Forbidden Sector on an unauthorized mission. They jumped into hyperspace before the Coalition could stop them. The journey to the Forbidden Sector took 3 days through normal space. As they got closer, everyone on the ship felt it. Something was wrong. The sensors showed gravitational readings that made no sense. Space itself seemed to twist and bend in impossible ways. There are temporal distortions everywhere, Kyung-soo reported. Time is moving at different speeds in different areas. We could age years in one spot and not at all in another. Can you navigate through it? Commander Taemin asked. Maybe, but it won't be easy. They entered the Forbidden Sector carefully. Immediately, the ship's sensors went crazy. Debris fields surrounded them, the remains of ships that had tried to enter over the centuries. Some of the ships looked ancient. Others were more recent. These battles happened at different times, Sang-hyun observed. Some of this debris is millions of years old. Some is only decades old. But they're all floating together. The temporal distortions, Dr. Haywon said. Time doesn't work normally here. They navigated through the debris field carefully, following the coordinates. After 2 hours of tense flying, they detected another ship. It was small and didn't match any Coalition design. It was also still powered. Should we avoid it? Kyung-soo asked. No, Daeho said. Hail them. Maybe they know something about this sector. The other ship responded. The captain appeared on their screen. He was a reptilian species with green scales and calculating eyes. I'm Vexil. You're either very brave or very stupid to be in this sector. Which is it? We're looking for something, Commander Taemin replied. What are you doing here? Same as everyone else. Scavenging. The Forbidden Sector has technology from civilizations that existed before the precursors. Very valuable to the right buyers. Vexil's eyes focused on Daeho. Wait, you're the human. The one who beat Krazoth. Yes. Vexil's expression changed. You shouldn't be here. This sector is dangerous for everyone, but especially for humans. Why especially for humans? Because this is where humanity disappeared. The old legends say they didn't die out. They were sealed away. The precursors feared them. Vexel leaned forward. What are you looking for? My homeworld. We have coordinates. Then you're looking for the planet inside the barrier. Everyone knows about it, but nobody can get close. The automated defenses are still active after millions of years. They'll destroy anything that approaches. Can you show us? Vexel thought about it. I can show you where it is, but I won't go closer than scanning range. I like being alive. They followed Vexel's ship deeper into the sector. The distortions got worse. At one point, they passed through an area where the view screen showed them their own ship from 10 minutes ago, still following Vexel. Time was looping back on itself. After 6 hours, they saw it. A planet surrounded by a massive structure that looked like a shell made of light and metal. It was enormous, completely encasing the entire world. Energy readings coming from it were beyond anything their sensors could measure. That's a Dyson-like barrier, Bora whispered. But the power requirements to maintain it would need a star's entire energy output. How is it still working after millions of years? The barrier's surface was covered in symbols and text. Dr. Haywan ran them through the translation systems. These are warnings, thousands of them in different languages. Most are from species that don't exist anymore. What do they say? Deho asked. Dr. Haywan read the translations, her voice shaking. They all say the same thing in different ways. Here lies humanity, not imprisoned for their crimes but for their mercy. They refused to ascend. They chose to give the galaxy a chance to grow without them. Everyone on the bridge was silent. Deho stared at the barrier surrounding his homeworld. My people did this to themselves, he said quietly. They locked themselves away. The question is why, Commander Taman said. What made an entire species choose extinction over freedom? Vexel's voice came through the communication system. That's as close as I go. Good luck, human. If you somehow get through that barrier, you'll have your answers. His ship turned and jumped away, leaving them alone. Bora studied the barrier's energy patterns. I don't think we can break through. The defensive systems would destroy us instantly. Let me try something, Deho said. He walked to the communication station and opened a broad-spectrum channel. Then he did something simple. He pressed his hand against the sensor pad, letting the ship's systems scan his DNA. The barrier responded immediately. A section opened, just large enough for their ship to pass through. The automated defenses powered down around them. It recognized you, Dr. Haywan said in amazement. It recognized your DNA. They flew through the opening and descended toward the planet's surface. As they got closer, they could see massive cities spread across continents. Everything was perfectly preserved like the inhabitants had just left yesterday, but there were no life signs. No power signatures except the barrier above them. The planet was completely empty. Kyung-Soo landed the ship in what looked like a central plaza. The crew suited up and stepped outside. The air was breathable, maintained by systems that still worked after millions of years. The city was beautiful and haunting. Buildings reached toward the sky in elegant designs. Parks and gardens were frozen in time, but there were no people, no bodies, no signs of struggle or disaster. Everyone had just vanished. Where did they go? Jiwoo asked. Deho walked toward the largest structure in the city center. Something told him this was important. The others followed. The doors opened automatically when Deho approached. Inside was an archive, a library of knowledge so vast it made their databases look like children's books. At the center was a control system that activated when Deho touched it. A hologram appeared showing a human woman. She looked tired but peaceful. If you're watching this, then you're the one we sent away.
I'm sorry.
You must have so many questions. Deho stepped closer. What happened? Where is everyone? The hologram couldn't respond to him directly. It was just a recording. But it continued. Humanity reached a point 10 million years ago where we could no longer grow. We had solved every problem, cured every disease, conquered death itself. But in doing so, we realized we had become the galaxy's ceiling. Our technology was so advanced that other species couldn't develop. Our presence prevented natural evolution. The hologram showed images of the galaxy, of other species struggling to advance while humanity's shadow loomed over everything. We had a choice. Rule the galaxy forever, keeping other species dependent on us, transcend to a higher plane of existence and abandon physical reality, or give the galaxy a chance to develop without us. The woman smiled sadly. We chose the third option. voluntary extinction. But we couldn't bring ourselves to end completely, so we chose one person to send away in cryosleep, one seed to plant in the future. That person was you, Deho. You're not the last human because everyone else died. You're the last human because everyone else chose to leave so the galaxy could grow. The hologram faded slightly. This archive contains all our knowledge. Everything we learned. Everything we built. It's yours now. Use it wisely. Use it to help, not to rule. The recording ended. Deho stood in silence, processing everything. His people hadn't been killed. They hadn't been defeated. They had chosen to step aside. They had chosen him to carry their legacy forward. I need time, he said quietly. Time to understand all of this. The crew agreed to stay on the planet for a few days while Deho explored the archives. But on the third day, alarms started blaring. Something had followed them through the barrier. Ships. Massive ships that looked like they were made from dead stars. They weren't Coalition. They weren't Vrelith. They were something else, something ancient and hungry. The archive systems identified them immediately. Devourers detected. Defensive protocols activated. What are Devourers? Commander Taman demanded. The archive answered with another hologram. Devourers are a species that exists only to consume advanced civilizations. They've been waiting in dark space for humanity to return. This is why Earth was sealed. To protect the galaxy from what would come looking for us. The Devourer fleet surrounded the planet, their weapons charging. They had been waiting millions of years for this moment, and now humanity had returned. The Devourer fleet hung in space above Earth like a nightmare come to life. Their ships were enormous, each one larger than Outpost Meridian. The hulls looked like they were made from compressed dark matter, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Weapon ports lined their surfaces, glowing with energy that hurt to look at. Commander Taman counted 47 ships on the sensors. How long do we have before they attack? The archive's automated systems responded. The Devourers are scanning the planet. They are verifying that humans have returned. Estimated time before assault, 12 minutes. Can we escape? Kyung-soo asked from the pilot's seat. Negative. The Devourer fleet has established a blockade. Any attempt to leave will result in immediate destruction. Bora looked at the defensive readings. What about Earth's defenses? This planet was sealed by technology we can barely understand. It must have weapons, the archive answered. Earth's defensive systems are active. However, full activation requires a genetic authorization from the last human. Warning. Full activation will bond the human permanently to the planetary defense network. The human will survive but will be unable to leave Earth. Everyone looked at Deho. He stood at the control panel, his hand hovering over the authorization pad. One touch and he could save everyone. But he would be trapped here forever alone on a dead world. Don't do it, Jiwoo said firmly. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Deho replied quietly. You need to get back to your ship and— No, Commander Taman interrupted. We didn't come this far just to watch you sacrifice yourself. There has to be another option. Officer Sang-hyun was working at a secondary console. Wait, the archive has communication systems. Very powerful ones. If we could boost the signal using Earth's power grid, we could broadcast to the entire galaxy. And say what? Dr. Haewon asked. Please come help us against an enemy nobody has ever heard of. Sang-hyun looked at Deho. We tell them the truth. All of it, what humanity was, what the Devourers are, and we let them decide if the galaxy is worth fighting for. It was a desperate plan, but it was better than surrender. Deho nodded. Do it. Bora and Sang-hyun worked together to connect the Dawn's Promise communication array to Earth systems. The power surge was incredible. When they activated it, the broadcast would reach every inhabited system in the galaxy. Deho stood in front of the recording system. He had never asked for this. He had never wanted to be a symbol or a leader. He just wanted to understand what happened to his people. But now the galaxy needed to hear from the last human. My name is Deho. I am human. My people existed millions of years ago, and they chose to leave the galaxy so other species could grow and develop without their shadow hanging over everything. They sealed themselves away and sent me forward in time to witness what the galaxy became. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Now the Devourers have come. They are an ancient species that destroys civilizations that become too advanced. They waited for humanity to return because they knew we sealed something dangerous here. They want to make sure humanity stays extinct, But if they destroy Earth and me, they won't stop. They'll move through the galaxy, consuming every species that shows promise. He looked directly at the recording device. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to save yourselves. The Devourers are here because I opened the barrier. This is my responsibility. But what happens next is yours. Come or don't, fight or hide. But know this. One human stands between the Devourers and the galaxy you built. You decide what that means. The broadcast went out at maximum power, reaching billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Then they waited. 8 minutes until the Devourers attacked. On the Vrelith homeworld, Fleet Commander Grakthar received the broadcast. He immediately called an emergency council meeting. The human is in danger. The species he described, these Devourers, match legends from our oldest records. They destroyed the first Vrelith colonies 5 million years ago. We thought they were extinct. What do you propose? A council member asked. We send the fleet, all of it, to save one human? Grakthar's expression hardened. No, to save the galaxy from something worse. The human beat Krazoth by thinking 3 steps ahead. If he says these Devourers are a threat, then they are. On Outpost Meridian, the Coalition Council debated for all of 2 minutes before agreeing. If the Vrelith were mobilizing, they had to respond. Every available Coalition ship was ordered to Earth's coordinates. In the criminal underworld, Syndicate leaders watched the broadcast and made calculations. The Devourers would come for them eventually. Better to fight together now than die alone later. 4 minutes until the Devourers attacked. On Earth, Deho and his crew prepared for the worst. They had moved back to the Dawn's Promise and powered up all weapons. It wouldn't be enough. Their little corvette couldn't fight even 1 Devourer ship, let alone 47. I'm sorry I brought you all here, Deho said. We chose to come. Commander Taman replied. No apologies necessary. 2 minutes until the Devourers attacked. The Devourer fleet began moving into assault formation, their weapons charged with energy that made space itself ripple. They had waited millions of years for this moment. Nothing would stop them from erasing the last human. Then something impossible happened. Ships began appearing. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Vrelith warships jumped in at the edge of the system. Coalition vessels arrived from a dozen different directions. Merchant ships, military ships, even pirate vessels materialized from hyperspace. They kept coming more and more, until the space around Earth was filled with thousands of ships from hundreds of different species. The galaxy had answered. Fleet Commander Grakthar's voice boomed across all channels. This is Fleet Commander Grakthar of the Vrelith Empire. The human Deho is under our protection. His people gave the galaxy a gift millions of years ago. Today we repay that debt. All ships, attack formation Beta 7. Target the Devourer flagship. The Devourer fleet was larger and more powerful than anything the galaxy had. Each Devourer ship could destroy 100 normal vessels. But the Coalition had thousands of ships and something the Devourers didn't expect. Coordination. The battle began. Vrelith heavy cruisers took the front line, their thick armor absorbing Devourer weapons fire, while smaller ships attacked from the sides. Coalition carriers launched fighter wings that swarmed like insects, too many to target individually. Criminal Syndicate ships used illegal weapons that even the Coalition didn't have. But the Devourers were winning. Their technology was too advanced, their ships too powerful. For every Devourer ship damaged, 10 Coalition vessels were destroyed. On the Dawn's Promise, Deho accessed Earth's archive systems. There has to be something here we can use. My people wouldn't have left themselves completely defenseless. Dr. Haywan pulled up tactical files. There are weapon systems, but they're all locked behind genetic authorization. The same authorization that would trap you here. What kind of weapons? According to this, they're reality manipulation devices. Weapons that could unmake entire star systems. Her voice was shaking. Your people built weapons that could destroy the galaxy if they wanted to. Deho stared at the files. This was why the precursors feared humanity. This was why his people chose extinction. They had become too powerful, too dangerous. But now that power might be the only thing that could save everyone. He opened a channel to all ships. This is Deho. I need 5 minutes. Keep them busy for 5 minutes. What are you planning? Commander Taman asked. Something my people would hate, but something they'd understand. Deho activated the communication systems and broadcast directly to the Devourer fleet using frequencies from the archive. He spoke in their language. one so ancient that even the translation systems barely recognized it. Devourers. You came to finish what you started millions of years ago. You came to end humanity because you fear what we became. I understand. My people feared themselves too. That's why they left. The Devourer fleet stopped firing for a moment, listening. But here's what you need to understand. My people built weapons that could end reality itself. They sealed those weapons here on Earth because they never wanted to use them. I can activate them. With one genetic authorization, I can unleash everything they left behind. And if I do, none of us survive. Not you, not me, not the galaxy. He paused, letting that sink in. Or you can leave. Return to dark space. Wait another million years. Maybe by then the galaxy will have learned what humanity tried to teach them. That power without wisdom is just destruction. The Devourer fleet calculated probabilities. They analyzed Earth's energy signatures. They confirmed that the human wasn't bluffing. The weapons were there, dormant but functional. After a long moment, the Devourer flagship sent a response in the same ancient language. We acknowledge your threat. We will withdraw. But know this, last human, we will watch. We will wait. If the galaxy produces another species like yours, we will return. We always return. The Devourer fleet turned and jumped into dark space, vanishing as if they had never been there. The battle was over. The Coalition fleet erupted in celebration. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species cheered. They had won. The galaxy was safe. Commander Taman looked at Deho. You were bluffing. You weren't going to activate those weapons. I don't know, Deho admitted. I really don't know what I would have done if they hadn't retreated. But they don't know that. Over the next few weeks, representatives from every major power in the galaxy came to Earth. The Vrelith Council offered Deho a position as Supreme War Advisor. The Coalition offered him full citizenship and a seat on their council. Criminal syndicates offered him wealth and power. Deho refused them all. Instead, he made a different proposal. My people left behind knowledge that could help the galaxy. Not weapons, not power, but understanding, medicine, engineering, philosophy. I want to create something new, the Archive Corps. People from every species who want to learn what humanity discovered and use it to help others. Dr. Haywan was the first to volunteer. I've spent weeks studying your people's medical research. They cured diseases we still struggle with. I want to learn everything. Bora joined next. Human engineering is beautiful, elegant. I want to understand how they built systems that last millions of years. Jiwoo surprised everyone by volunteering. Your people understood combat not as violence but as discipline. I want to teach that to others, Commander. Taemin stepped down from his position in the Coalition. Military to help organize the archive. Corps Officer Sang-hyun used his intelligence contacts to recruit the best minds from across the galaxy. Pilot Kyung-soo set up a training program for navigators using human spatial mathematics. Within a year, the Archive Corps had 1,000 members. Within 5 years, 10,000. People came from everywhere to learn from the legacy humanity left behind. Earth became neutral ground, guarded by all species but controlled by none. The barrier remained up, but now it protected knowledge instead of hiding it. Ships came and went freely, bringing students and researchers who wanted to understand what the humans had learned. One day, 5 years after the battle, Commander Taemin found Deho sitting in one of Earth's ancient parks. The garden had been restored by Bora and a team of botanists. It was beautiful, alive again after millions of years of silence. Do you ever regret it? Taemin asked. Being the last? Deho looked at the garden, then at the Archive Corps facility visible in the distance. Students from a dozen species were walking together, discussing ideas and theories. I used to think being the last meant carrying a weight that would crush me. The weight of an entire species' legacy. And now I understand what my people were trying to teach. I'm not the last human. I'm the first human of something new. The first to see what we could have been if we'd believed in the galaxy more than ourselves. He smiled. Every person in that Archive Corps carries a piece of humanity's legacy now. It's not just mine anymore. It belongs to everyone. Taemin sat down beside him. The Devourers are still out there watching. I know, but they're not alone in the dark anymore. Deho pointed at the sky where patrol ships from a dozen species moved in coordinated patterns. The galaxy learned something important. Unity isn't weakness. It's how you survive the darkness. Far away in deep space, beyond the light of any star, the Devourer fleet waited and watched. They saw the patrol ships. They saw the cooperation. They saw species that used to fight each other now working together. And they calculated new probabilities. The galaxy had changed. It had learned to be strong together. That strength wouldn't stop the Devourers forever, but it would make them think twice before attacking. And in the vast timeline of the universe, sometimes making someone think twice was enough. On Earth, Deho stood up and walked back toward the archive. He had classes to teach, students to guide, knowledge to share. His people had chosen to end their stories so others could write new ones. Now he was helping write those stories, one lesson at a time. He wasn't a warrior anymore. He wasn't a symbol. He was a teacher. And that felt right. As he walked, Bora ran up to him with excitement in her eyes. Deho, I figured it out. The power generation system your people used. I think I can adapt it for modern ships. It would revolutionize space travel. Show me, Deho said with a smile. They walked together into the archive, discussing ideas and possibilities. Behind them, the garden grew under an alien sun maintained by students from across the galaxy. Life continued. Knowledge spread. And humanity's true legacy, the legacy of choosing wisdom over power, lived on in everyone who came to learn. The last human had become the first teacher, and that made all the difference.